The C3 is Citroën's very French super mini offering that aims to take on the likes of the Ford Fiesta and Suzuki Swift. Now, by very French, we mean, well, look at it, it's about as catwalk conscious as you can get. It's even got a roof decal. So that's nice for truck drivers to look at. Now for 2020, Citroën has given its voguish looks a slight update with a minor facelift. Now this facelift doesn't update anything under here, but it does add a new grille, new front bumper, new wheel arch and new air bump design. Citroën has also added some new colours to its palette. So you can now get 97 different exterior colour combos. And there's a few new features on the inside as well, including these advanced comfort seats. Now, these are being carried across from the Citroën C4 Cactus and C5 Aircross, and they really are lovely. They offer couch-like memory foam-esque comfort. And although they might not look it, they are actually really supportive. Now, one other new feature in here is this wood effect dash inlay, which adds a nice bit of flair and in true C3 fashion matches these seats. Apart from that, it's your typical C3 layout, which is to say it's simplified and clean cut without being boring, thanks to a few features sprinkled throughout the cabin, like these shapes here and luggage light handles on the doors. Now we've got the flagship Flare Plus trim, which adds loads of tech, like sat-nav, a reversing camera, and Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and it's all housed within this 7-inch touchscreen. Now I really like this system. I mean, it's nothing special, but it's responsive enough and logically laid out. Now I particularly like the fact you can adjust all the driver assist features with one menu here. As you can see, just get one big list, very easy to alter anything. Now the one downside of this minimalist design is that you don't get any physical climate control buttons down here, so you've got to go into the touchscreen to alter it. Now this can be a bit of a pain when you have to look away from the road when you're driving, but to be honest, the readout's so clear and the buttons are so big, you only need to be half looking at the screen when you're driving to alter it. Practicality wise, you've got a fold down armrest, which does add a bit of comfort. But to be honest, I found it gets in the way more than anything, so I just move that up there. You've also got a deep cubby down here, which is a bit awkward to access, but the deep door bins make up for it in my opinion. Cup holder wise, it's typically super mini, which is to say they're quite small and a bit awkward to reach. And glove box wise, it's pretty much hogged by the fuse box. But overall in here, it is really nice and it doesn't feel as cramped as its exterior might suggest. And it's a similar story in the back. I mean, yes, you've got to dip your head under there to get in, but once you are back here, it's not as small as you might think. There's plenty of legroom and headroom for most, and I like the fact that you can slide your feet under the seat in front for added comfort. This armrest on the door makes it very easy to get comfortable and stare out the window, and again, just like the front, you get some nice large door bins, so be prepared to be clearing up wrappers constantly. Now the rear bench in here is nice and flat, which makes climbing around really easy to do, and although I've not actually sat with a passenger either side back here, I think you'll actually do all right for elbow room. Now the boot is really competitive size wise, although when you open it, this huge load lip here is a bit off-putting. I mean, it's not unusual for a Super Mini to have something like this, but it is still a bit of a pain. Now size wise, with the seats in place, you get 300 litres of storage space, and although the boot's not very deep, you can fit a pram folded up and face down on the floor here. Now with the seats folded down, you get 992 litres of storage space, but again, a bit like the load lip there, you do get quite a big hump between these seats. Not unusual for a Super Mini, but still a pain when loading longer objects. So there's a few different petrol variations to choose from in the C3 and one diesel, and today we've got the 1.2 litre 3-cylinder turbo petrol with 110 horsepower, and this is mated to a 6-speed manual gearbox. Now as this is a 3-cylinder engine, it's very important to remember that you've got to drive it a certain way to get the most out of it, and I say that because it's very easy to jump in, have a quick go and think, yep, it's totally lacking beans. Basically you need to rev its arse off to enjoy it. And of course, that will mean it ends up sounding like a roaring quad bike, but the performance is definitely there. Of course, when you're not revving it out, you'll be trying to get used to driving it at lower speeds, mainly figuring out what gear you should be in at 20 or 30 miles an hour. Spoiler alert, that will change all the time, but that is par for the course with 3 cylinders. They do make you work a little bit harder. Now, fuel economy wise, this 1.2 litre is okay, but not great. You shouldn't have a problem getting around 35 to 40 miles per gallon, if not a little bit more. And with CO2 of 131 grams per kilometre, company car drivers will be looking at a 29% BAK tax bracket for 2020 and 2021. However, that will rise to 30% for 2021 and 2022, which means slightly higher monthly payments. Now overall, the C3 is very nice to drive. The suspension is incredibly comfortable and the steering is nicely weighted. I mean, okay, it does sacrifice some finesse for comfort, but overall I think it's still pretty engaging to drive, so long as you're not taking on any hairpins. The steering really helps offset any wallowiness you get from the comfortable suspension as well, which can be a bit of an issue on bumpy roads at speed, but nothing major. Now the 6-speed manual gearbox could be a little bit snappier. I've actually found myself slipping into 3rd instead of 5th, at least at first, and yeah, its long throw could be a little bit better, but it's very easy to get used to. But again, that's very small in the grand scheme of things. So, what's the verdict? Well, you either get the C3 or you don't, and I get it. If you're after a Super Mini run around for yourself or a pool car for you and your colleagues, and the Ford Fiesta and the rest of the Super Mini clan that sit on that very traditional line are a bit too obvious, then something with a bit of flair won't go amiss. And as flair goes, the C3 has got a lot of it. No, it's not a flawless package by any means, but what style-conscious Super Mini is.